first of all, like going back to the beginning, do you remember the story when it first came out, was making headlines and all that?
I do. I mean, of course, there was sort of like no way not to be familiar with it, right? So of course I knew of it. Yes.
So when you read the role, when you got the
Yeah.
information about it, what were your thoughts?
There was an element, so I knew of it, but I didn't dive real deep because I really felt like with Val, who is also Valika, really, her full name is Valika. With Valika, I felt like there was an element of keeping my blinders on that was really important in order to have this devotion for Christine, because what you see is a loyalty that's like unbreakable, unshakable, right? And that's a really specific type of friendship. And I think in order to have that kind of friendship, it requires what is the almost like it's pure projection, right? I'm not seeing Christine for who she is. And that's the only way that friendship works. So in order to sort of be able to do that, that was such a big part of my process that I think that it really was the only way to tell the story. And because reading the scripts, you're just like, whew, I don't even have words. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's wild. And it was so brilliant how it was done too, because it really does. There's so many different sides to the story that each
Yeah.
character you can really see what is going on through their eyes. And like you said, Val, she's a devoted friend. Like she is, everybody should have a friend like her.
Yes, and maybe not, right? Because there's something to be said. I think we all, or I shouldn't speak for everyone. I know for me, the friendships I trust the most are the ones who are honest with me. The friendships I treasure the most are the ones who can say, "Hey, sorry, you're not being great right now," right? And so to some extent, I do think Val was, we could argue that she was misled, but we could also say that Val kind of allowed herself to be misled. She kind of chose to live in this orbit where Christine was her hero for helping her with her neurodivergent daughter and then uplifting her. And I think Val has, some issues with her privilege where she wants to be a person who's doing the good thing with it and uplifting this wonderful person and making her, giving her a platform to use her voice. And then in the end, it's a real wake up call.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like is like you see her evolution and you see her
Yeah.
boundaries of like it's a wake up call for her. And then,
For
she's,
society.
yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so many of your scenes, obviously, you're working off of Ellen, through
Yeah.
this. Um, Talk to me a little bit about your dynamic and how you two bonded with this.
Ellen is she's got her head on her shoulders. She's a really like good head on her shoulders, grounded, like salt of the earth, wonderful human. She's very genuine. And she really she and Mark together really created an environment where everyone just feels safe to be our full selves, which is that's it, right? That's what you always hope for on in any work environment, a place where you're safe to do your best work. And so I will say in that sense, I felt very grateful. I felt very supported and the chemistry was very easy. We didn't have a problem with any of that. And I think even that last scene, which is so dynamic and so powerful, we really worked on that together to find it. That wasn't as easy as it might have seemed. We really had to find how bold Val was going to get and how, offended Christine was going to get. And that's when we got to the meat of that scene and it was fun to work on.
So what do you admire about Val?
Oh God, what a great question. I think what I do admire about Val is probably the thing that was the hardest to play was that there is a value to that love, that loyalty, that I am your ride or die. Sure. I think the part that I have a hard time with is take a step back and see who you're offering that to. See the people that you love wholly and make a point to ask the questions you need to be asking. Like don't live in that bubble because that bubble is a very dangerous place to live.
What what would you say is really at the heart of the show?
That is probably the hardest one for me to answer because the truth is, I don't know. The truth is, this show, along with, as you said, we see multiple perspectives. We see so many twists. We see so much pain and real, cruelty. Um, I don't know what is at the heart of the show. I know that what I feel deeply is that I hope we as a society do better by the disabled community, have a lot more willingness to look at ourselves and see how much we fail our disabled community regularly. And that's something that I personally walked away feeling very regularly during this filming.
So, going back when you read the script, was there a part in it that you remember looking at where you were like, wow, I am really proud or thrilled to be able to tell this story?
Oh, probably that last scene was the only place I felt that. It's not that proud is such a tough word for this because this is such a hard subject matter. This isn't an easy show. This isn't delightful. This isn't a story that I am, excited about. It's a story that's heart-wrenching at times. It's painful. It's one that makes me think we gotta, like I said, let's take a look at ourselves and see where we can be better.
Mhm. How would you describe it to people who are just about to lay eyes on it?
I would say, they did one of the teasers they did sort of talk about how it's like shocking, disturbing, a thriller, a this, a that, a that. It's like everything's every second it's a different word. I think the thing I would say about this show is it is disturbing. It is a lot of twists and turns. I think it's very compelling. And I think it's a cast that are extraordinarily talented. Imogen is a star, and she is one of the truest, beautiful hearts I've ever known. She's like a sister to me. I love her with every cell in my body. And, I would say the takeaway is Imogen's brilliance. The takeaway is really just, watching this show and recognizing that it is hard to watch at times and there's really beautiful people involved in it.
Absolutely. Sorry, you. It was such a pleasure. It was such a pleasure getting to hang out with you today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sari. What a treat.